piece of it, you cannot like always like hide them, because kuna venye they normally find a way of coming out. So that's what I can say media has taught me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Evans. Princess with exclamation marks. Are you in the house? Ama pia yeye anakula lunch. Princess, are you with us? Okay, before she responds, let me let me select someone. I'd like to ask Juliet to give us an opinion. Juliet, how do you think that media has changed you positively or negatively?
Okay, for me, I think media has impacted me positively in terms of, I can give an example where I have good friends who are in social media and are doing like great things and are putting up like they're doing like something like great things, which in simple ways are like so small. So it helps me like grow continuously and think of small ways that I can help society or community.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my point.
So thank you. A final word from someone on this question. Papa, would you like to give us an opinion? Watu wanakula lunch.
Oh, Grace, inaweza sema before Papa.
Okay.
I think hiyo topic yako ya kufuata celebs, I think ni kitu kila mseo experience, because at some point utafeel umse ana brag. Wacha pia mimi nikuenda post hizi stuff ndio nionyeshe wase unknowingly kumbe media imekuinfluence because unasaka mtu hiyo pressure. And then I think during this time it has changed the way we view the different situations, like when it comes to racism. Najua like not all of us to exposed to that much of history ya racism or vile wase who were discriminated and all that. So yeah, positively it has changed me in terms of enlightening me in stuff that I didn't know before.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. What he said about racism and all that is actually something we're also going to be discussing later on. About how Christians should be involved in, this whole programs and this whole signing of petitions and things like that. So my next question is, what informs what you post online? And do you think about what you post in terms of satisfying yourself or satisfying others? I'm sure most of you are on your WhatsApp groups, and every day, if not every day, like most days, you'll post something online. You'll post a status, you'll post a story, you'll just post something. Like for some of us, like myself, I love posting things online. So if a day goes by and I'm like, I haven't even posted a meme, I'll just post. So I'd like you guys to think about that question. Like, what informs what you post online? Like, are you influenced by something? Are you influenced by someone? Is it something you usually believe in? If every day you post Bible verses, if every day you post memes, is it something that influences you or something? Before that, let me read some of your responses. Sandra says, media exposes me to a lot of information, e.g. LGBTQ, racism, feminism. So it can be both positive or negative, depending on how I use it. That is so true. Emily says, media influences our worldview and what we choose to believe in. On a positive way, the gospel has been preached effectively, and the outreach has created a great impact by changing our lives. That is so true. If you guys tune into our services on Sunday, there's a Sunday that Bishop Oginde talked about how the media, like the church, the online church services and the broadcast services have reached so many people in, I think he used the statistic of around 2 months than how the gospel would reach people in 10 years. So you can imagine like how many people have gotten born again during this season, how many people have, known God through this platform. So yeah, I'd like to ask Rodriguez, hi. Sasa. Nini inakupushing you post whatever you post online? Like, is it for you to satisfy other people or for just your own satisfaction?
I think for me, I'd say what really informs me to post every day, just basically fun. As in, for me, like at the end of the day, I must make myself happy. Now, I say when you post mostly status WhatsApp, I mostly post memes for fun. So like, what normally informs me to post at the end of the day is just to have fun and all that. Because no believe at the end of the day, say lazima kwe happy. So if I'm happy at the end of the day, I'm good to go.
Santi. Jasper Osero. Jasper, are you with us? Okay. I think he's not there. I'd like to ask Wycliffe Musau, if you can hear me. Wycliffe, just unmute yourself. Okay. So
say something as you look for my fans what to answer.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Please do.
I post online. I rarely post anything because I ask myself so many questions. I'm like, do I really want to post? Why am I posting? So if you look at all my social media platforms, I rarely put anything. In fact, my friends, like after some time, they're like, wait, change your profile picture. Imekaa hapo sana. I rarely do that. And one of the things is I find that if I post it online, I'll become very vulnerable. Like you open up yourself to people judging you. Like I have a weird sense of humor. So some things that tickle me and I want to post, then I'm like, before people washike hii joke itakuwa maswali, then I'm like, wacha tu. So I rarely do anything, and I've given the reason why I don't. But the times that I post, most likely it's those days I feel courageous. I'm like, let me show, like I want to, like if I've done something and I feel it's an achievement, like I post when I bake, I'll post a picture or something. But other than those achievements, I feel like ni achievement. Me online hamtainipata. Mi ni team computers. Moments too.
Sawa. Actually, you've brought across a good point that people are actually different. You'll find like in a day, especially what work crew, like let me not say what work crew. Teenagers generally. Teenagers will post, like, for example, in WhatsApp, atapost zile status ndogo ndogo. Like, as in baka, you'll think it's one status, but it's like a whole lot. And probably it's just content that you can't relate to. So you're like, unafinya tu, baka iende the next status, or you mute that person. And then you'll find someone who posts just one thing, like atapost Sunday. And the next time you'll see them posting is next month Sunday. You understand? Like, people can be so different. So sorry for that voice. People can be so different when it comes to media. There are people who are in media for very different reasons. The people who are in media for speculation, for gossip. The people who are in media to, create content and inspire people outside, like people who are viewing and stuff like that. So people are usually in social media for very different reasons. You'll find someone is there for business, maybe promoting their company or promoting their fashion line or whatever it is. Someone else is on media to just look who's pretty and the latest fashion. So people are there for very different reasons. I'll read some of your comments before I pick someone. Pat, thank you for your comment. You say media, sorry. Where's it gone? Oh, media has exposed me to a lot of history, especially on pandemics that date back to the 1700s and give me hope that we shall really overcome. That is so, so true. Thank you so much, Pat. Hebrew, information pandemic-wise media has really been a source of info. I'd like to ask, sorry, forgive my English, but I'd like to ask, there's so many things going on about this whole pandemic, especially in Kenya. Because you wake up today, and there are like 100 more cases, and then I actually saw someone posting on Instagram, do you know anyone who has been affected by the pandemic? And like 70% said no. So do you guys think it's a scam or it's actually there? Because it's actually a topic that people think, gava wanatucheza. There are so many rumors of, hiyo pesa inaenda wapi? So I'd like you guys to give me an answer on that one. Inspiration is what moves me. I post what will edify others in our social group. That's from Emily. That is also so true. Sandra says I do post content that is heavily on my mind, things that I believe is true. Posting helps me express my thoughts. I do post memorable moments, sometimes funny content. Yeah, this is so true because myself, I can totally relate because sometimes I'll post something funny, sometimes I'll post a Bible verse, sometimes I'll encourage someone. But generally, like on my social media space, I really try to express positivity. Like if you know me or if you're my friend and you follow me on my social media, I'm a social media person, like Instagram, Twitter. I'll be there checking what's the latest. So I'm someone who you'll find today I'm posting something that will encourage someone. I won't really find something that is I won't encourage something that is explicit, like those kinds of content on my page, because I feel this one is not for me, and plus as a Christian you should know what to consume and what not to consume, because every day when you log into Facebook, every day when you log into whichever social media, whatever you see, whatever you view, you actually consume it. Yeah, so I'd like to ask someone who I haven't heard their voice today. Marion Minaiwa, kona mimi ama pia wewe umeenda kula lunch?
Kuna memes.
Ama wengine mnanisikia alafu mnanilenga tu ati msitaki kuongea. Yeah.
I think Estachengo anakonga very active. AJ.
Hi. Hi, Hebrew.
Yeah. Hi, Emily.
Yes, I just wanted to just say something on the issue of the media, the question that we just spoke about. You see, with the media, there are watchdog roles. They perform the watchdog role, and the content that they give us is edited and limited. So definitely, there are vested interests behind what is given to us in the media. So in as much as we watch what we are given in the media, we need to do our own research, and so that you can get that truth that you really want to search on, especially on the COVID-19 pandemic. It's important to just do more research so that you don't blindly follow what you're given. the media does give some element of truth, but for us, we have to do like more research. We don't have to depend on the media 100%, but I'm not negating the media. They do have some element of truth. So you have to dig a little bit deeper so that you can be satisfied with, the numbers, the statistics, and everything that they like give us both online and on television. Yes, that's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you. Before I continue, Percy just asked a good question right here. Don't you think we sometimes create a perfect persona online that sometimes isn't a reflection of who we truly are? Especially as young people, someone may be posting they're okay, someone may be posting something funny, just to, it's like it's a mask you're wearing, like you're just wearing a mask on social media, but in real life you're pretending, you're just pretending everything is fine. When in real life, your life is in shatters and you don't want to talk about it with someone. So Princess said, I expressed myself and not a specific topic, just random. Pat said the pandemic is there. On the question that I had asked, the pandemic is there. Infected people are not speaking out about it due to fear of stigma. But also, I assume, sorry, but about the numbers and scam, we can't tell the extent of it. That's true. Eileen also said the pandemic is there. Remember, there's doctor-patient confidentiality. That's true. There's stigma on people who have contracted the virus, so no one is willing to come out and share. That's actually true. I can imagine if any of us right now, God forbid, would have been among those who are on quarantine and things like that. It wouldn't be something that you'll just tell your friend that, hi, I have coronavirus. It's going to be tricky. Like the kind of comments people will give you, like, coronavirus, what kind of coronavirus? Like even post-corona, I know you guys can relate, like even post-corona, someone would be like, walikuwa na corona. Imagine, a lot of things go in our lives as young people today. Is there anyone who has a comment to say as I continue reading your comments here? We only have 3K out of 40 million population. It might then take us so long before you know someone who has it. That's also true. You might not know where that person lives because we are, it's just coming from different sides of the country. There's someone who was found with it from Mombasa, someone who was found with it from Kakamega, from Nakuru. This statement is true. Most people would rather depict a perfect picture of themselves to release a lot of stress. A perfect image is better than the true image. Actually, just this afternoon, there's a celebrity my sister just told me who committed suicide. And I don't know why, like, mostly it happens with celebrities. On social media, you see like everything in their life is fine. You think this person has all the money in the world. You think this person, has it all together. And then next thing you know, so-and-so committed suicide, or so-and-so is amepelekwa rehab and things like that. I'm not saying it happens to celebs only. It happens even to young people right now. And that's why it's something we're talking about so that we know how to, let it not get to us. You understand? Like, don't let what people troll you on social media or what people say on social media, like, get to the best part of you. And it's quite sad. Some people don't know how to like open up to some people and just say like, I'm not okay. Some people will, just play that game all along till the end. And it's something that we should really discourage as youth, as Christians. We should check up on our friends. You never know, especially during this season where we're just maintaining social distancing. You really don't know what the other person is going through. I believe we've expressed our points well. Is there anyone who has a point?
I can say also being sensitive to what people post on social media, mostly your friends. Unaweza ona msee all of a sudden ni msee wa kupost memes seme ka Gracie ama Jemo, and then all of a sudden anapost something that sounds a bit off, you know, like the way someone said, some people post stuff on social media so that they can express their feelings. So out of that, I think you should always be sensitive and try and raise an eyebrow when someone doesn't look like they're doing okay. And for them, hawezi kuja wakuambie ati hey, bile hii bro mi siko poa. Watapost on social media ndio I feel relieved. So I think, yeah, even as you post, like, also check up on what your friends are posting. It might be very helpful, inaweza kuwa very inspiring for you at the moment, inaweza kuwa job opportunity, inaweza kuwa so just remain sensitive, especially your close circles, what they're posting. Yeah.
Yeah. Esther Chengo, would you give us your opinion on what informs what you post online?
Yeah, thanks, Grace. I don't know if you can hear me so clearly. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can, okay. A few things to say. One, I'm in the communication space, and because of that, I find that most of the times I'm communicating things that are informative, either because of the brands that I'm trying to push, or even through like formal social media handles. So I would be posting using my work social media handles because I run those ones, or a business social media handle. So I would be posting much more using those social media handles as opposed to my personal ones. But on my personal ones, I think it depends on the mood that I have. If it's something that I've read, let's say a quote that's encouraging, I would post that. An event that's happening that I think people need to know about, I would post something like that, or a photo that just makes me happy. And I'm like, wow, I remember this, it represents a memory I had, and I'd love to post it just to share an experience that was meaningful to me. Now, something that's important to note is communication involves the person who's passing a message, who we'll call the communicator. Then it also involves the message itself. It involves the medium, and it also involves the receiver of the message. Yeah. I think one of the things that's very important for us to note is all communication always has an intended purpose. Like, it's not just sent aimlessly. And it's lovely that we are already starting to talk about the purpose of these messages. Why I'm saying that is the music that we get exposed to, the movies that we watch are not plainly for entertainment, but they actually have subliminal messaging. And it's very easy for us to dull our minds to the subliminal messaging and think, it's just a good song, you know, oh, this is just a hit a film or a hit series. And so we mindlessly engage for hours on end on media without realizing that there's subliminal messaging that's being passed. So I think as the receiver of this media, as the person who's looking at the status updates, as the person who's watching the series, as the person who's watching the sitcoms or listening to the music or whatever else it is, it's important for you to ask yourself, hey, is there a message behind the message that I'm reading? Sometimes it may just be completely just a message itself, but then most of the times, especially for these paid adverts or, you know, paid media, you need to ask yourself, why would someone invest millions of dollars to produce this movie? You know, what is in it for me? Why did they, did they just present it to you as something to laugh about for 2 hours and be done with it? I highly doubt. So there's the point at which you need to ask yourself, is there subliminal messaging that's coming across either through the music or through the movies. Now, about the coronavirus, if it's in the country, yes. If it's in the country or in the continent or even across the world, yes. I believe that if you're following the news, you're able to see cases or hear about those cases, or even some of us may be knowing people, friends or family who have been affected by this virus. It's real, it exists. So I think we need to be a bit cautious about how we handle it. Of course, the question that the whole world is asking is, why isn't it showing the same results in Africa as it is in other places in the world? You know, when you think about the high rates of death or infection in continents such as, you know, America, Europe, they have really high rates. But when it comes to Africa, the whole world is wondering, and some predictions had been made, you know, that our streets would be filled with bodies. If you remember, that was one of the earlier predictions. And I may not have a clear answer as to why. You know, some people are saying that maybe our black genes or our skin is, you know, is one of the things that's helping us. But there could be a place for prayer in terms of most African nations. Their first response was actually to pray. Like when this pandemic started breaking out in other continents and 1 or 2 cases were appearing in the continent, very many nations actually turned to God in prayer. And so the question would be, did prayer hold back the hand of the enemy? And are we completely neglecting a supernatural hand at work in the continent? But that's a discussion that we can have on the side. So back to media, there's always a communicator, there's always a recipient, there's always the message, and there's subliminal messaging. So it's good for us to kind of interrogate, why did this person write this song? What is in it for me? Yeah. And I hope I've responded to your question, Grace.
Yeah, you've responded just vizuri sana. Thank you so much. I believe from what she said, that's just like most of what she said is really a take home, that all social media has an intended purpose, and you know, it's up to you for whatever you post or whatever you let yourself see or hear out there. It may affect you in one way or another. And there's an amazing comment from La. She says, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. That's 1 Corinthians 6, verse 12. And I think this should be a take home for all of us. This has been my guiding factor, for anything to do with social media. Thanks to social media. For such a time like this, we have been able to catch up with friends or even fellowship. I have also tried not to be judgmental and instead reach out to those that might seem off or not in a good place. Yeah, true. It's for like such a time like this is such a time for us to thank God for, you know, what's coming up for technology, because it's given us such a good space like Zoom meetings and other platforms for us to, you know, just be able to say hi to one another virtually and send virtual hugs and virtual high fives. Pat says, I love writing. Social media has been a great space for me to express that. I do post also a lot depending on the season I'm in or the mood, but I have to be honest that some things I have posted maybe at the spur of the moment, or it may be while I'm in a certain emotional state, may have not been such a good idea. But like in every area in my life, I have grown and I'm still growing and making mistakes, so I wouldn't be so hard on anyone or myself, but with time I have grown to be more cautious about it. I think this is something most of us can actually relate to. Sometimes you may just be so angry. Maybe it's something to do with politics, or maybe it's something to do with, you know, general stuff that's affecting our nation. And you may just go out on social media and say something so bad, and then after 5 minutes you're like, oh, what did I just post? Like I shouldn't have, you know? So it's quite normal for all of us, and it's something that we should really check up on. And for everything that you post, there's always a recipient, just as Esther has illustrated. For everything that you post, there's a recipient. There's someone who's been encouraged by it. There's someone who's laughed about it. There's someone who's also been offended about it. Maybe some of your viewers or some of your contacts are people who are unbelievers, and then you just go ahead and post about, having faith during this season, do not be shaken during this pandemic. And someone's like, because there's some people right now who are thinking, why would God send such a, why would God create such a season where there's a pandemic, everything is at standstill, people are suffering, so people tend to question, but of course we know that we're not supposed to question. And for every season, there's a reason. So we know that there's always a reason, and there's something that each one of you will come out with during this season. It could be a breakthrough season for you. It could be a season of reflecting. It could be a season of going back to your family, because right now we are on lockdown with your parents. And if you're someone who maybe you have not been in good terms, maybe now is the time that you'll go back and be like, we need to fix this and things like that. So thank you so much for your responses. So my last question, is there someone else say something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Southern region. Oi, sorry.
Southern region. I perceive.
Change. We had a session and Baruch was there and a few guys for the ex-candidates on just talking about cyber things. And I think one of the things that the lady who was talking to us kept reminding us was how unforgiving the internet is. Once you post something, it's not yours anymore. Like it's beyond you. It could be on your page, it could be on your platform, but remember, it's not yours. If it's Facebook, it belongs to Zuckerberg. If it's Instagram, like it's out there. So before you post, just keep asking yourself, is this something that I want? Because even when you delete from your end, it doesn't mean that it's deleted from the world of the internet. Just so you know. So just have that thought before I post something. Do I want this out there for the rest of my life? Because it's technically for the rest of your life. You only have control of it before you post. Once you press that hit button, it's out in the world. So we need to be absolutely careful about what we do. And something else that we sometimes forget is that people, your employers, go back and check your history. You may never know. You're going for a meeting, and I mean an interview, and somebody has friend requested you just so that they can know what you post on social media, and you probably didn't know. But these things happen, by the way, to be honest. So just remember, anything you post can and will be used against you at some point. So keep that in mind. Yes, I'm saying Elena's posted that employers view your trail online before hiring you. So don't incriminate yourself. You may be posting in the heat of the moment, but it could come back and bite you years later. Something else that someone asked, which I think was also relevant, is we assume that ukienda incognito, unajua kuna kwa ako ka button ka incognito pahali, nobody knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's not true. Once you logged into that comp, you probably logged in with your email somewhere, you logged in with another account somewhere, there's a trail. So it may not be showing on your end, but there's a trail out there. So let's remember that, once you step uko, you're in the public. So be careful. Be careful.
Yeah.
But don't be careful just so that you show as a perfect person, but let it be the real you, let it be the real you. Yeah.
True. Thank you so much, Percy. There's someone who is also in agreement with you. Ivan says my employer asked me to change my Facebook name and have a real name. Hey, sorry. I know for some of us, some of us who are still students, we can't relate. Some of them, like my friends, some of them are like, sinta delete your account alafu nieke ingine professional so that person sees, hey, this is such a, a believer and things like that. But you never know, guys. You never know who is watching me. That's so funny. I'm sorry. So yeah, thank you so much, Percy and Esther Chengo. I'm sure for everyone who's listening, we have gotten take homes, and I'd like us to discuss one last question in this session. How does one participate in online activism as a Christian? If we all know, like right now, we all know what is going on in the world, what is going on in our nation, about police brutality, about racism. We've seen so many nasty videos. Some of them I couldn't see myself because they were so emotional. I was like, I just cannot. So we all know what's happening right now, and we may not know how exactly to handle it. There's actually a post I saw of someone who was like trying to bash the pastors and trying to bash influencers, saying times like this is when you see pastors are quiet, times like this is when you see influencers are not posting anything, they're not saying anything, and some Christians might feel like it's not in my place to talk about it. It'd be like, you're just sensitive. I don't know if it's godly to support these people who are protesting, or I don't know if it's godly to, go out there and post Black Lives Matter and things like that. But I feel like as Christians, like according to my opinion, it's actually a verse in Proverbs 8, I think. I stand corrected, where it talks about justice, about fighting. It's Proverbs 31 verse 8, I think. Where it talks about standing up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. And maybe if it's the poor or the needy. And I'd just like to ask you guys on your opinions on how as Christians we should handle such things, how we should handle activism, how we should handle protesting, because it could be some of our close friends are the ones who are even, creating these petitions, and you're wondering, okay, should I push it to like this WhatsApp group, or will they like respond vibaya? So I'd really like to know your responses about this question, because I think it's a really sensitive topic. We can all agree it's a very sensitive topic to each one of us. Yeah.
Okay, to me, hello.
Yeah.
To me, I don't think there's anything wrong with protesting online, but I think what you are doing there should be based on biblical principles. Like, for example, when you are talking about police brutality, it's good, first of all, you understand why the police behaved in the way they did. And also you see from biblical perspective, you see sometimes like mtu anaweza tusi polisi, so and the only way to them they know how to defend themselves is by beating you. So it's good first of all to understand why there is the problem, then you at least use biblical principles to react in a manner, in the way that you want to react. On racism, I think we should talk on on Jesus saying that you love one another, you love your neighbor as you love yourself. So in summary, I think we should just be, it should just be based on biblical principles, nothing else.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Grace, there are two hands that are up. We have Jasper and we have Becky.
Okay.
So yeah, you can guys.
We'll start. Becky, Jasper.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Hey, Becky, you have been
courtesy
given the permission.
Men before. But thank you guys for being a gentleman. Let me take the advantage and the privilege. So I want to share a small story in 1 minute of what happened last year. In very unfortunate circumstances, my uncle, my mom's one of the youngest brothers, was involved in an occupational health accident. So they stay in Pipeline. I don't know if you guys heard a story of a building that came down last year, I think between October and December. About, I think the fatalities were not so many, but there were so many, I mean, there were not deaths, but there were so many injuries. So, I saw that post on WhatsApp, actually in the Nyayo post, and I was like, hey, I hope no one has died. even as I'm saying, I was just thinking, okay, I hope not. I just let it pass like that because I was like, for sure, there's no one in my family who would be in Paipu at that time. And this young brother of my mom, we haven't had that relationship per se, but okay, fast forward, like a month or like a week later, my mom is calling me like, by the way, my brother got an accident. And I was like, okay, this one has hit home. Because when I went to like the social media, people were frantic like, oh, why did the owner of that building not take due diligence, build a nice building? Where is the government? Why they're not supporting them? And I was like, hey, iko nyumbani kabisa kabisa. And you know, in that frustration, I didn't know what to do, but I felt that many times, I'm saying this, I'm sharing this story because many times when you hear of such, because I feel like this is a case of injustice. This is a case of negligence. This is a case that someone should be held accountable for what has happened, not only to my uncle because it's my uncle, but to so many people who have lost their lives, their property, their health, simply because justice is not being served. And not only justice, people are not doing what they're supposed to do. So I looked at this situation and I remember how it made me feel. It made me feel so vulnerable. It made me feel so bad. It made me feel as if I need to say something, I need to do something. But initially I was so quiet. I was like, you know, when you see such a thing, you don't comment because you don't really know how to react. And sometimes if it doesn't hit home, you may not necessarily have that sense. Okay, of course you have empathy, but it's not that empathy that comes from like, you would reach out to that family or you do something about it as a community or as a church. So it gave me like a different outlook towards life, because if you see your neighbor's house catching fire, be sure that your house, for sure, if nothing is done, your house is also going to catch fire. And I see that our being inactive and not being vocal about things that should be done, because we look at the case of, you know, that I was following like a case of where people are being arrested kwa curfew, and yet you are going to buy medicine for your grandma, or you know, you were just found on the wrong side at the wrong time. And sometimes, you know, it's the police could have done a simple thing like kijana usirudie tena, you know, and then let that slide. But it becomes such a dramatic incident, horrifying, there's trauma involved, and then by the time you get to prison, you had drugs, you're thinking, I have never even seen, I don't even know how bang looks like. So I feel like as Christians, the more we occupy these spaces and the more we are vocal about these things and speak about these things, participate. You know, it can be a simple thing like, for now, what I do most of the time is have these hard conversations with my family and have these friends with this conversation with my friends, very close friends and girlfriends. Some of them are in this group, so they know how I really pester them on certain hard conversations. And I realize that it creates a platform when you start thinking about these things. And it might, you know, you may never know, it might spark us to take the next step. You can influence policy. Like last year, I can give an example myself. Last year, I diligently participated in it's an organization that deals with food security. And they would have like youth forums where people would come on board, debate on their issues. And then, you know, like they would say like, okay, people who are versus GMOs and those who are against GMOs, and you come on board and you listen to both sides. Then twice of last year, that's just that forum. It's called Route to Food. They're able to approach one member of parliament, do the lobbying, and they're actually having a conversation around how should the policy look like for food security, and how do we ensure Kenyans are, you know, food secure, and the things that are being brought on board, like the fertilizers, the imports, are things that are good for our health. And I found that to be very noble of them, and being able to add my voice. You know, I attended like, I think 3 or 4 sessions, and I follow them on Twitter. When they have something that is interesting, I retweet. And I found it to be very effective, because when you support such organizations, you're also in a way raising your voice. And, you know, at the end, if it gets to parliament, who knows, they'll debate and maybe we will win, or not, or if we don't win, they pass a good bill. You know, at least there's something that has been added, and you've done something as young people, and especially if you've done something as a young person who knows what is right and who is following Christ. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Becky. Thank you so much for that. Jasper.
Oh, as my brother Wycliffe had mentioned, that social media is a tool for social. Actually, in the past few weeks, whereby you see public outcries of guys complaining against various injustices by police, injustice by the government, also injustice by not only by the people also around us, depending on where we live. Due to social media, we've been able to understand what is also happening even amidst this lockdown. Like one of the things imekuwa inaniguara roho ni the issue of domestic violence, whereby people, you find that someone anageukia familia yake na usually naangatizo vitu kwa news na kuona like God, where is this world going to? Na Christians, we are not only called to spread God's word, but to also speak out against the various injustices that are happening in our world today. It was during the baptism, before Jesus was baptized, when John the Baptist was giving the teachings to the various people. He told the Pharisees to be humble. He told the soldiers not to accuse anyone falsely, not to treat anyone harshly, but above all, they should also be content with their pay. Hata the way we see things, unapata kama umeingia kwa ngori, unapelekwa police station, as long as uko na pesa, you can just go scot free. Na kama una do, unapata unageuzia, unaweza pata maybe ulikuwa umeiba kisu na sufuria, lakini unaambia ulikuwa umeenda kuiba sufuria ukitumia kisu. Na also, as Christians, we have that obligation to speak out and to also help those who are in need. The parable of the Good Samaritan, when the guy was attacked, the people, the Levite and the priest passed him by, but the Samaritan, who was an outsider, the Israelites, is the one who helped him. So one of the things we should always remember, tusikuwe wale wase wenye tunaona kitu inafanyika then tuko like, God will judge this person, he will go to hell. It's either you take action, but according to the principles that God has outlined in his word. You cannot be spiritually vigilant, but yet socially you turn a blind eye to the injustices that happen around you. Jesus himself also highlighted the injustices that happened in the world, and actually he not only came to deliver us from spiritual issues, but also the physical issues, because he encourages us that being bold and coming out in solidarity and in unity, we are able to overcome these things. Thank you. Gracie, umemute.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Jasper. Sorry, that was my mistake. He's spoken about the issue or the point of speaking out, and allow me to read some of your comments, because I feel like your comments here really matter, and some of them, all of them actually, are very, very enlightening. Pat says, as a Christian, we are called out to be the salt and the light of the world. Everything we post should add God's flavor, preservation, and shine God's godly light, especially in the midst of all the darkness around us. Thank you so much. Sandra says, with activism, I think you should air your godly opinion boldly without disrespecting other people. Don't dehumanize people of a different opinion. Be careful not to condemn the opposing side of God's wrath. Wycliffe says, on a lighter note, Evans, what was your Facebook name before you were unmasked? Elaine says we have to stand for the truth where there is injustice, but we should word things correctly. Ephesians 4:26, be angry, but in your anger do not sin. That's amen. Activism is a tightrope to walk, especially as Christians. There is pressure to balance between being compassionate and actually calling out injustice for what it really is. And then sometimes you find that you are fighting two issues: the injustice in question, the negative perception people have on activists, because some of them are very bitter and get carried away by the causes they fight for. That's very true, especially on Twitter. So many activists, like they get to a point they become abusive, and at first they were fighting for the right thing, but the fact that they let things get to them, it becomes very nasty. And from what I'm getting from you guys is that we should also respect people's opinions, that even as you're standing for what you're fighting for, respect what the other party is going to say. Pat says something important about protesting online. Bishop Oginde spoke about it, I think, on the leadership forum. But he said, as Christians, we are called to speak about and point out wrong, especially sin in the society. Otherwise, if we see it happen and we say nothing, then we are liable for the wrong they are doing. When I say to a wicked person, you will surely die, and you do not warn them or speak out to dissuade them from their evil ways in order to save their life, that wicked person will die for their sin, and I will hold you accountable for their blood. Thank you so much, Pat. Two wrongs don't make a right. Like those who rioted against racism, but they looted to air their views. I feel like when people are protesting, as Christians, we should also not encourage violence. That's why there's something called peaceful protesting, where you just let it not include violence, let it not include insults, let it just be peaceful. The verse was quoted from Ezekiel 3:18. Percy says, remember, for every cause, people come in with different motivations, some good, some bad, and some selfish. Thank you so much. Jasper adds and says, I second the part about condemning sin. Love what is good, hate what is evil, not who is evil. That's so true. Let us remember to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, whether they are friends or our enemies. We are also encouraged in the Bible to love our enemies. Yeah, I agree with Sandra. John says, I agree with Sandra. Approach is key. Let's seek God's wisdom on how we put it. We can learn this from how our bishop responds to national and global issues. That's actually so true. I find how Bishop Oginde really expresses himself concerning the issues that are happening in the world. Like, I find like he addresses them so calmly, like you have nothing to worry about. You're just like, all is well. You know what? God is in control. You know, the word says this and this, especially if you've been listening to the series that he's doing on understanding the times. I feel like before we had so many rumors going on, dunia inaisha, sijui nini. And you know, once you listen to such a sermon, you're like, I should not be shaken. My faith should be strong. I should focus on Christ, because you know, if you're of Christ, and if you dwell in his kingdom, then like everything will be all right for you and things like that. Baruch says, I feel like activism is really good and effective when we use it for good. It gives everyone an opportunity to be vocal about something that's happening. Every time we are silent about an issue, injustice thrives. Take, for example, corruption. How many times have you seen instances of corruption, but you've kept quiet about it? This is something that is there like 24/7. Like we just hear it every day. But it's also bad if we use activism for distraction, like how people are rioting and looting. When it comes to that point, we are not doing it for good, but we're just promoting the devil's agenda, stealing, killing, and destroying. This has actually reminded me of a post I saw, I think on Friday, about it was people from Kisumu County who were actually chasing the police. And it was actually quite funny because I mean, I think the police came to stop them, alafu hao ndo sasa wakakimbiza polisi. I mean, it wasn't looking so good. And you know, some people always have the thing that people from those side, unajua, there's no protesting without kurusha mawe, or there's no protesting bila kublock barabara. So I think that these are some sort of beliefs, or some sort of whatever you want to call it. These are things that we should really avoid when it comes to activism as Christian youth, as Christians. And I found the verse that I was talking about is Proverbs 31 verse 8. It talks of speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. As I close, I'd like to say thank you to all of you who have engaged yourself in this very, very important discussion. I hope you have taken notes, you have had your take home. My take home is definitely, especially on the point of activism, because it was a really sensitive topic, and I felt like I also needed enlightenment on it. And I'd like to encourage you guys in everything that you view, in everything that you post, in everything that will go on in your social media. Make sure you control what you consume, or what you consume will definitely control you. This is a very key quote. Yeah. So control what you consume, or what you consume will control you. Thank you so much for your points. I think this discussion is very lengthy. We can go on and on and on and get amazing points. But for now, my time is up. It's been real, guys. It's been real. It's been crazy. Nimewa miss. Ngojeni tu after corona. Ntawa hug nyi wote. Thanks for tuning in.
Wash your hands.
Oh yeah, don't forget to wash your hands. Stay safe. I'd like to hand it over. Please don't leave yet. Kuna chai. Relax. Kuna chai. Yeah.
I thought already we should prepare your tea.
Oh, I've given you the tea. Oh, I've given you the tea. Now wait for the tea. You no? Okay. So, it's fine. At least let me hand it over to Hebrew. Thank you so much. I love you guys. God bless you for being here. You guys are amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Let me hand it to Hebrew and Baruch and Pasi, I think. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Asante sana Gracie, man. Maybe if there's a way you can appreciate you, Abu Tuambie. Abu suggest tuone kani workable.
Nini ya?
A way we can appreciate you.
Yeah. Follow me on my social media pages.
Teenagers, man. Yani, wewe ni social media too.
Yeah, YouTube channel coming up soon. Lakini we no. Is there the way you can appreciate me? I don't know. Just
save her number.
Whatever you post, let it be for the glory of God. Yeah, and keep up the good work, guys. Thank you so much.
Save her number.
Ama mniklapie, nimejua kila mtu aniklapie.
Okay.
Naona kila mtu aniklapie.
So una force wase.
Yeah.
Yes, you ni activism.
Maxine uklap. Mario na uja clap.
Sawa.
Bado kataja clap.
Asante sana Grace. That was really good, especially from wase and the experiences and their accounts. So asante sana. Right now, doing a quick Q&A session. So if anyone has a question, anyone who has a question about the topic, you feel free to ask, either in the chat box, unmute yourself and ask, and then we will definitely respond. Kuna mtu yote ako na swali? Cha nione. Maxine, uko na swali?
Hebrew, as the questions come in, there was one quote here that I thought I could share. I don't know if you can hear me clearly. Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the quote is by a pastor called Antoine Rutayasire, and he says that busyness should not, busy with a Y, so that's BUSYNESS. Busyness shouldn't be equated to productivity. Agitation or movement shouldn't be equated to impact. Activity shouldn't be equated to activism. And being quiet shouldn't be equated to being inactive. So it's worth thinking through, but we can continue with the questions.
Esther, can you leave that in the chat box, tafadhali? Because maybe we can take it from there as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so any question? So before like someone raised a question, I just wanted to say, like, if you were to draw an example from the Bible when it comes to online activism and all that, nilikuwa nafikiria when Jesus was doing his ministry and like the Israelites were under Roman rule, there's no place in the Bible unasikia Jesus akisema our Romans need to fight for our rights to go away from their oppression and all that and their rule. Jesus always rebuked whatever the Pharisees viewed as ritual law and all that. So I think it also means that even as we participate in all these kinds of activism and trying to help justice be sought, remember, like, your prime goal as a Christian is to call out unrighteousness in a corrective and godly way, and also see to it that the gospel is spread. So unaweza kuwa mse Black Lives Matter morning to evening, but ume inquire kama kuna mse anahitajia soul kuwa saved, like what is the ultimate goal for you as a Christian? So that's also, I think, something to ponder about. But yeah, all the comments are really enlightening, as Tracy said. So Nona Minayo, you have a question?
Hi guys, I'm not. Hi, mnanisikia? Sawa. So me, I'm not sure if mine is a question or a comment or an inquiry. It's just something. So I have I think it's a question. So when you're not on the side of the activists, I don't know. Yeah, you're not on the side of the activists. So, for example, Black Lives Matter, you don't support Black Lives Matter, right? And it's not that you're saying only white lives matter. Like, you're not on that other side, and you're not on this other side. As in, you're not actively involved in the activism. Yeah. So, my question, if at all, hey, I don't even know. I think I need an example for this. Let me actually just put an example, a working example that leads to my question. So of late, we've been having like I'm in UN, so we've been having the boycott classes thing, and some people are not exactly for the boycotting classes, online classes and exams. Yeah, and I don't know. It makes sense. I think it makes sense. The argument being, online classes is like a start for something, so it cannot like you can't start with everyone, as in it will incorporate everyone in the end, right? So I'm asking, what position do you take? No, not what position do you take. You have taken a stand. You've said, I think it's a nice idea to start, and others will be incorporated later, right? Yet everyone else is against you. Now I'm asking, a position to pick when you're not for the activism, because it was really active, and it was I don't know, it was very I think everyone was supporting it except a few. So my big question is, where do you stand when you're not for the activism and you're also not on the other side? I don't know, when you're not on a side, what role do you have to play? First, as a Christian, Yeah, acting as a Christian. So yeah.
Can I say about that? Yeah. Who's answering? Oh, Princess.
Actually, that thing came to mind when we were talking about activism and social media and all that. And what I usually ask myself or say is, if it was me on the receiving end, or if it was my brother or sister who is in trouble or in a problem, will I have kept quiet about it, or what will I have done? So for even as there's an issue about online classes, online exams, and some people are like, let's go on. We can't, as in we can't have everyone on board and all that. And most of the people who are saying that are those people who are, they have a Wi-Fi, they're in a place with good connectivity, as in everything works well for them. But then now I'm wondering, what of the people, let's say, who are in Mandera or a place, they're at work, as in it's not their fault that they can't access online classes or they can't do exams, and they will wish to continue with school or not be left behind. So what I was asking is, if it was you in that situation, what will you have done? Or what will you be okay for people to go on and you catch up later? As in, what will be the first thing that will come to your mind, or what is it that you would have done or said to the university if it was you who is left behind?
Okay, I don't know if there's anyone wants to respond.
Yeah, can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just I concur with Betty, and also I find like her question is very genuine, and it's a good question to have, to ask ourselves honestly and to be able to have answers. Because one thing I know about activism, people go out in the streets or they protest when they feel that they have been hard pressed, or that if there is, kama vitu ni unfair, it's just in a house situation. Mtu akikula ugali, mwingine akule piece kubwa na mwingine apate kidogo. Of course kuna mwenye ata protest. Just on a lighter note, I'm saying this because I'm currently staying with my brother. I'm with my younger brother, and calories content, like what he eats, his calorie needs are higher. So the guy will actually finish everything if you're not careful. So sometimes you're like, hey, bana, baby, I know I have a small tummy, but please. So, but I love having such conversations because you have to consider the other person. I'll hear him out, so he'll be like, okay, next time tengeneza, you know, consider, and I'm next time ni consider. So I would look at the situation in the university. I believe if you're standing on the fence, probably it's because you're not yet there yet. Maybe you're okay with where you are, which is still okay. But then again, you need to realize that if we do not participate, being inactive sometimes also is good, because when you're silent, you're able to process everything and you not say things in the heat of the moment. Alafu, you cause more friction than bringing on board peace and reconciliation. And then the other thing I have learned over time is to be able to listen to both parties and to seek an understanding where people are not feeling unjust or if there's unfairness. So that you're not just being quiet, just being quiet in terms of, I don't care. Not just saying, if you're quiet, it looks like you don't care. You're unbothered. If it rains, doesn't rain, it's okay. But you find, like, especially when the temperatures are rising, sometimes you might be sitting on the fence. It will help both people to come on board. You might be the mediator, like you'd be like your Kofi Annan of the moment. So you can seize that opportunity because you're neutral. You're able to hear both sides and see, okay, guys, okay, I hear what you're saying. Online is not working. I hear what you're saying. This is how it's working. Let's see where we have like a middle ground. You can take that to be an advantage. See how you can bring both parties on the other side. But most importantly, I think if you're being neutral, it's good to listen to both sides and ask yourself the question that Betty was asking. If you are on the other extreme, like if you are from a point of privilege, what would you have done? And what's your reasoning? If you're a point of being disadvantaged, what would you have done differently? Because being neutral, you don't know. As in the board can fall on any side. Today you might be privileged. tomorrow you might be disadvantaged. So will you change? So it's good. And then I think it also helps you to build a principle for your life. In the case of, I was just looking at, like in the case of my uncle who had that accident, if I never knew about that side for a pipeline, I wouldn't start thinking about, okay, maybe people need to be trained on this. Maybe I need to see how I can participate in a more active way in these matters that concern us. But if I always lived in Nyayo kitambo nyumba ibomoke, it's unheard of, So, but right now I'm not going to wait for that to happen to someone else so that I make a decision regarding that thing. I'll know how to be able to act on it where I need to act on it, and not really seek a reaction, but an action. We need to move from a point of always reacting, but acting. Because activism sometimes comes out badly when it's a matter of just reacting to that situation. But if we are active in terms of more proactive on certain issues, we'll avoid certain situations which cause people to be more privileged and other people to be disadvantaged.
So thank you so much for that. Action.
Hebrew, just a bit. I agree with what Becky is saying, and I've also think we also looking at it like critically. You also find out that not everything will start out with everyone on board. As in, you can see from like most of the things throughout history. It started, then people got incorporated. You see, I think what Becky says, being in the middle is actually, I don't know, I think it makes sense because you have actually the patience to listen to either sides. Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like that makes sense. I don't know, but I feel like that makes sense. Thank you, Becky.
Hebrew.
Summer John.
Thank you. Probably it's true, just like Becky has put it. It's really true. You guys can remember some time back, Bishop Oginda had this sermon that went viral, something on trichotomy. Because that was a time that there was so much tension in the nation, and was still expected to come and give a sermon and just say, who won? Is it Uhuru or Laira? But he brought up a very good sermon coming in between, based on some wisdom to bring in on the between. Talking about the same area, I remember some fellow tenants the other day, they were trying to come and come together and have the rent reduced around, negotiating and all that. And of course it was done to some extent, but you see, some were still not okay with the percentage that was reduced, and they're still negotiating for more. But you're living near between to think, you think about, like, let's say I was thinking about it like myself. Probably my mom has some two houses somewhere back home, and the tenants are not paying. So put myself in the shoes of this landlord. Like, if I really ask for this big percentage, this also landlord is having some bills to pay and all that. And at the same time, there are people who have lost jobs and all that. So in between there need to be, some optimum, whatever they call, you come to some wisdom. And I believe that's what God gives us. And if you look at it, you argue it to the point of, just like Pastor Modoni had mentioned, that internet never forgets. So whatever you say, mean it. Let it come like from within you. It is the right thing, not because you are taking a side. You are saying it because it is the right thing, based on, like, we are Christians and we base all our arguments and our reasoning from scripture and from a biblical wisdom that is not of the world. So I believe whatever we come out of is not, we are not taking sides, but we are like, this is the right thing.
Yeah. Asante sana. Yeah, I also thought about that, like handling situations with a 360-degree perspective. Not only about one side of the coin, but and then you come to, like you said, an optimum reasoning. So I think that it's very crucial. I don't know if there's anyone who has something else to say or a question before we move to the next, before we conclude. So I can see there's no question. 3, 2, 1, sawa. So Asanteni sana for the discussion. I think the goal of making this interactive was to allow you guys to express yourselves on the topic, because this is something that affects everyone. Like kila mtu hapa has a media space. Everyone has the right and freedom to express themselves according to the constitution and all that. So having that right and freedom doesn't really mean that we are totally free to do anything that we want. So remember, we are confined by our salvation. We are confined by our faith. We are free in Christ. That's how we define ourselves. So asanteni sana. I hope you've picked something from the discussion. If you need something, any point ilikupita, I think Kosa amepost vitu nyingi sana hapa kwa chat box. So unaweza pitia haraka screenshot tena uweke kwa folder.
We will make the recording available after this, Jasper. I mean Hebrew. But I wanted to it's because I saw your name, Jasper, on the chat box here. Can I respond to the activism question? And okay, so this is what I'd like to say. When Bishop was speaking, it was during the election period, and the question was, is it an us versus them scenario, where if you choose us, that means you've neglected them, or if you've chosen them, then that means you've neglected us. And so it brings division and it brings hatred among two different parties. But he now brought in under the sermon was the danger of dichotomy. And he said, instead of thinking about this as an us versus them, we need to think about it as on the Lord's side. So that is the same principle that we need to have as believers when we are engaging in activism. When we try and engage in activism without seeing the bigger scope of things, then it's very easy for us to get divided along whether it's tribal lines or gender lines or what. I mean, it just depends on what it is you're activating. What is the English word? You are protesting against. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's an English word we shall review immediately after this call. Now, I wanted to bring in something else into this discussion. And what I wanted to bring in is the place of faith in Christian activism. Think about the story of Esther. And I want to draw our attention straight to Esther chapter 4, verse 14. And it says, this is Mordecai. Mordecai is the uncle of Esther. He's the one who has been giving her oversight, like parenting her, almost like a foster parent, while Esther was going through the processes of being a queen. And now she got into the role of being a queen. And so Mordecai was still in the picture. And now the lives of the Jews were being threatened because of Haman, who was someone who worked for the king, but he was plotting to destroy the Jews because of his hatred for Mordecai. And when Mordecai got to find out that an edict had been sent out to give power to people to destroy the Jews, he came to Esther, and that's now in Esther chapter 4 from verse, I think I'll read it from verse 13 into 14. And this is what it says. It says, he sent back this answer, and he is Mordecai. He sent back this answer saying, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. And what I see quickly from this verse is there is a place for you to speak out against injustices, to speak out against things that would ultimately be curtailing the will or the plan of God. So something that I got to learn recently is the place for, it's a 3-part phrase that I think I'll share it on the chat box immediately after. It talks about head in the word in terms of, as a believer, your head needs to be the word, which means just understanding the heart of God or understanding what God's mind is concerning a matter. So head in the word. Then the second thing is heart for the world. So in Heart for the World, it talks about compassion, like being compassionate and getting to really have your heart break for the things that would break the heart of God. Then the third thing is now Hands for the Kingdom, which is now where activism comes in. And so my comment would be, in the place of Christian activism, we still must raise our voices, but if we raise our voices without understanding the heart of God on a matter, then it's very easy for us to do it as just activity, but not having true impact. So as a person who is in campus, let me use Minaiwa's example. As a person who's in campus, it's important for you to first look at this through the veil of the word of God. What does God's word say concerning this matter? I mean, God may not necessarily have written in his word, when KU goes on strike or when JQuat goes on strike, this and this is what you're supposed to do. No, but there are principles in the word of God that he can't go against. So the question would be, what is in God's mind concerning this matter? Is it aligned to God's word? Is it not aligned to God's word? So just starting from head in the word, what is in God's mind concerning this matter? Then heart for the world. Are you truly compassionate about these people? Then you can now engage in Christian activism, which would now be based on the word, compassion, and now getting hands for the kingdom, engaging fully in what God desires you to do. So yeah, you shouldn't necessarily keep silent in all matters, but there is a place for you to speak up and speak out, but speaking out based on what God would have desired for you to speak out. Yeah.
Yeah, asante sana Esther for that. Bringing that biblical perspective to the discussion. And I think, like, as someone has had alluded to before, like, WWJD, what will Jesus do? It was him and acting from that point. Yeah, so asante sana. I don't know if anyone has anything to say. Jasper, you have something to say? No, unmute.
Thank you for this session.
So, asante. I think right now I'll pass it over to either Pasi or Esther to conclude for us, and then we'll have a closing prayer. So, Pastor Mudhoni, Esther, just brief remarks.
Yeah, I want to thank the organizing team for bringing us together. Thank you, Hebrew. Thank you, Grace, and everyone else who was engaged behind the scenes. May God truly bless you and empower you for the next session. From the questions that I'm hearing here, it looks like we need to have a round 2 coming soon. So thank you. Thank you for all that you have done. For everyone who made time to be in this Let's Talk forum, yes, may God bless you. And if you have other questions, feel free to engage with us even on WhatsApp or on call. We are here to walk with you. We are here to pray with you. And we are here to trust God together that he will use us to impact the people around us for his glory. And so it's my joy to invite Pastor Mudhoni to give her final remarks, and then we can have the closing prayer. So Pastor Mudhoni, karibu.
I think mine was just to say thank you. Guys, that was a really lovely conversation. Let's do this again. Yeah, that's it.
Asante Pasi. Najua kama daktari, you just speak briefly, but it's okay.
Ni kama mimi, si kama daktari. Just me.
So, I think I'd request Mr. Abuko to close for us with a word of prayer. If she's available, she doesn't seem available. And so, let's pray. Oh God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for granting us the gift of life. We thank you, God, for granting us even the gift of fellowship, oh God, that we can even